Okay, boys and girls, welcome back. This is part 2 of the Browser Automation Studio tutorial guide. We're still on the beginner section, however, we are going to move at a quick pace and we're going to actually build a bot in this video. This video is a little bit off the cuff. I haven't really prepared the material too well. It's also 4:30, well, it's just gone past 4:30 in the morning. So please forgive me if there's any errors in this video. I'll do my best to make this as easy to understand as possible. We're going to go over a couple of key concepts that can be a little bit difficult to understand. So I'm going to do my very best to explain them to you, even at this time in the morning. I have had my first coffee, so I'm a little bit awake now. So we can continue where we left off. Before we get started, just the usual plugs. If you haven't already done so, check out the website, thebotempire.com. The information is in the description. We also have a Discord, a Stack account. Just join us on the Discord, etc., so you can join in the conversation and learn a lot about creating bots and software. Also, check out the course that's packed with details how you can make everything from beginner bots to advanced and all that good stuff. And if you need a script made, something to learn from, or something that you need for a client, then also all the details are on the site. Okay, now with that being said, let's get into today's topics. Okay, so in the last video, we looked a little bit at resources. We made a bot that simply went from one site to the next. Okay, so we're going to continue with that. And what we're going to do in this video, we're actually going to build something that's useful. Okay, we're going to build a bot that's going to scrape some information from Instagram accounts. Okay, namely the name of the account and the amount of followers they have. Okay, and we're going to then put that information into a database. So there's quite some big topics here. Okay, and it sounds quite advanced, and some of it is, and by the end of it I want you to be able to scrape basic data and put it into a database. So first, before we do that, I just want to go to hit record and hit OK. And then I'm just going to load, for instance, google.com. So all I did to do that, as before in the previous video, I just hit the browser option in the toolbox and then hit load. In other words, go to website. And then in this case, let's go to google.com. And I just want to show you, before we get on with the meat of this video with the scraper, is that I want to show you when you're in the browser window here, this is how you select items within the browser to work with. So for instance, if we wanted to come over here and click on the search bar option, then what you do is you right click. And when you do that on any element on the screen, you're presented with all these options that you can work with. And through these series, we're going to run through a lot of them. And in the video course, we go through just about all of them. But I just wanted to show you what happens when you click your mouse button on there. The ones that you're going to use the most are here. Move and click on element. In fact, that's the one that you're going to use the most. You can just click on the element. You can move on the element, but not click. You can move and click on that set coordinate. Okay. You can type text, which we've done in the previous video. You can start a loop, you can open a new tab, and the list goes on and on. You can even take a screenshot from just this menu, click to fill reCAPTCHA. And I just wanted to show this menu is it's kind of like the second step when you're working with an element. So when you've loaded a website that you want to work with, then of course you build the building block to do that first, and then the website is going to be presented in this screen down here. And how you work with a set element is just, you can hover your mouse and it'll be highlighted like this. So we might want to log in, so we could highlight the login button. We would, excuse me, you can right or left click, it doesn't matter which one. So I've right clicked on here, and then I can select the item, move and click on element, or whatever the case may be. There's all these options here that you can work with. As I say, the one that you're going to work with the most is probably move and click on element. Okay, and then you select the item, then you select which selector, element selector you want to work with. Now that's for a different time, okay? Generally, just to get yourself started, if you've never used BAS before, then just go with the flow or what it's already set up with. Okay, you can select via the CSS of the website, or you can match the item. Let's see if with this one, oops, capital S. See, oops, come on, dude. Right, so you can see it says I've started typing in under match. So here, instead of using the CSS selectors, I've used matched. And if I type in the text, the inner text of the button, the name. Okay, come on, it's time to wake up now. So if I type just the first bit, even just sign, there's nothing else on that page that has that as the inner text. So BAS knows that's what you mean. And then I would press OK. And it will go and click on the button. Okay, and something I will mention when selecting an item on the page. So if I choose move and click on the box here, what you want to do is avoid, you'll see with some elements, here's a good example. Now I can either pick the identified ID or the first child, one, and then you see the brackets where it's got the one. Now the issue here is if the website changes, or even if the element just changes anywhere on the page, then this is probably going to change the numbers here, which element, what child element it is. So if this happens, it's going to break your bot, okay, and you're going to have to come in and you have to make the change. Now, as you go on in your bot career, you'll see that some sites change more than others. So it really depends on the site that you're working with. But if you can find an identifier, a match or a CSS that's not going to change, and generally they're the ones without numbers in. Okay, so out of these two options, I would always go with this because I doubt that's going to change. Okay, there's no numbers involved. It's called identifier ID. It's probably going to stay like that. So that's just a tip for you. I'm going off course a little bit, but it's quite important when you're choosing elements that you choose ones that are not likely to change, or at least not going to change very often, so that your bot stays intact. This is especially important if you're creating bots for clients, of course, because you don't want them to have issues all the time. Well, you can at least minimize them by selecting the right elements. Okay, with that being said, that's a little golden nugget for you there. Let's just come out of here. I'm gonna get rid of these like so. Okay, and exit. And now I'm going to get back to what we're supposed to be learning. Okay, so what I've prepared is just a list, and what it is a list of free Instagram accounts. Okay, just random ones that I've selected here. So if you recall from the last video, we had a list of random URLs. Well, these are a bit less random. They are all Instagram accounts, but they're all part of the text in one text file. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the same resource. If you remember, we made a resource. In fact, I'm going to delete the resource and start over, so you can see. This, just pretend we just started like this. We choose create new resource. So let's name it. So let's call it IG URLs. So always try and name your resources, and also as you're going to see later, there's something called variables. Always try and label them with something that means something to you, so you know what they are. And if you're going to share your file, make sure that it's something that the person you're going to share them with would understand. Okay, so name your variables and your resources with something meaningful. Okay, so this is going to be lines from file. So we've got a text file. Next, only read, that's fine. Next, only use the line one time. Yep, that's fine. And finish. There you go, we've created a resource. Now I'm going to just save that, and then I'm going to hit record, and then here's our resource. A resource also becomes part of the GUI, the graphical user interface, that yourself or someone you pass the script to or a client is able to see and work with. So for this resource, I'm going to load if I can find it, yep, the text file that I just showed you called IG URLs. It's got the list of the 3 different Instagram profiles. Hit OK, and then we can come to the bot. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just to show you how it works, is use the load option under the browser. Okay, and then what do I want to load? Well, I'm going to use the resource. If you remember from the first video, when we work with resources, let me just come off of here. I've left clicked, though I could right click, and then choose load from file, user input or database, or other words, work with a resource. Which resource? Well, we've only got one, which is called IG URLs. Next, I want to untick this box. So in other words, I'm just confirming that I only want to work with every line of the file just one time. So I'm going to uncheck that and hit OK. And there you go. We've loaded the first Instagram profile from the list. Excuse me there, guys. Right, what I'm going to do, just so I can show you something, is in your toolbox, there's an option called waiters. So I'm going to go onto that. And I'm going to use the sleep function. So just to come back in the toolbox, waiters here, click that. And then you've got different options of what you want the bot to wait for. In this example, I'm going to use the sleep option and I'm going to say wait 5 seconds. So this is in milliseconds, so 5,000 would be 5 seconds. So there you go, it just slept for 5 seconds. So our bot, what does it do right now? It goes to each one of the URLs in that list. So it goes to each one of the Instagram profiles, and when it visits one, it's going to wait 5 seconds and it's going to move on. So what I'm just going to do to finish off is, when it's come to a URL, there's an option again in your toolbox. There's one called tools. So in your toolbox, the item called tools, if you click on there, there's one where you're able to log out information. So click that. Now, which data do we want to, what data do we want to log out to the BAS screen, meaning here? So when the bot's running, what information would we like to display? In this case, I want to, again, work with the resource, the only one that we've got, and to check the box there. So right now, we're going to load the URL from the list. We're going to log that URL out to the BAS profile screen, sorry, and then we're going to sleep for 5 seconds. Okay, so I'm just going to change the run type as well, because we've got more than one on the list. What we want to do is hit repeat. That means that it's going to keep going until it runs out of something. In this case, it's going to run out of lines in that file. There's only 3, was there 4? 3 or 4 different Instagram profiles, and then it will stop. So change it to repeat, hit OK. Okay, then press the stop script. Let's save and let's run the script and hope that at 4 in the morning I'm able to do this. Okay, so let's hit run. We've already loaded in our resource information, which is the Instagram URLs. Hit OK. We can click here. We'll see. Let's just view the log this time. So we can see in our log, it's come to the first profile. Okay, what is the issue here? What have I done? I know what I've done. Let's just check the file. There is 3 on there. Okay. Let's see. Load. Not to reuse. Yep. Let me just checking. Come on, demo gods, don't fail me now. Huh. Okay. Let me just it should work. Okay. Let's see where we're going wrong here. Delete this. Because we've already got the okay. What have I done, guys? What have I done? Let's see. I can. Oh, okay. Lines from file. Okay. Let's just set this to custom. Should be okay. Right. So, 0.5. Okay. 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 Right. Check the browser. Okay, we're back. We're back on schedule. I'm not going to edit the video at all. I'm going to let that run so you can see how it works in the real world. Now, guys, I hope you've learned a valuable lesson. The lesson being that if you start work at 4 a.m. and just have a sip of coffee, then things can go wrong. No, I'm not going to edit the video because this is real life, and that's what happens when you're creating bots. It doesn't matter if you're advanced, if you've just started. The whole idea behind creating bots, or sorry, the skill that you learn and what you need is problem solving. I never make a program and it just runs smoothly the first time. Even at a simple level, you can overlook things. And let me show you, because I was quite quiet during that period of what I'd done wrong. I don't know if it's my error or not, but I've changed the run type to custom. Repeat should work with a list, so I'm not sure if it's a bug, etc. See, I'm trying to pass the buck now. I'm trying to blame the actual software and not myself. Okay, so I've changed it to custom, and I've just put 10 and 10, so run through the script up to 10 times and allow up to 10 fails. Okay, and then the rest of the sentence is the same. The only thing that I took away to see if there was an error was the log. So I'm just going to put that back in now, like so. Well, that could have been the issue actually. So let me just check it again one more time. Thanks a lot, demo gods. Right. And let's just check. Ah, so that was the actual issue. The actual, right, okay. Okay. So if I just, right, okay. So let's run that again. I just want to check if the actual issue was me making it not use the same URL twice, so to speak. There you go. There you go. So I could, well, this is good in a sense because you're seeing how I problem solve as well. Test everything, ABT, always be testing. Okay, so if I change this back to repeat, I think the issue was that I'm telling the bot not to use the same line twice, and then I'm doing it again for the logout. I was doing it again for logging out information. Okay, so hopefully I can run again and we can pick up where we left off. I'm an expert, really. Okay, so that's the first one. Second, there we go, nailed it. Okay, guys, so you can see what the issue was at last. we come back to the bot, what I was trying to do, so it wasn't a error with the software, it was down to me, is I was loading the URL and saying only use this URL once, and then when I was logging out the information, I was doing the same. So basically it was using up 2 of the URLs, and as there's only 3 in the list, it's going to cause problems. Obviously we're going to run through the list. Okay, take a breath, Dean. Okay, so now what our bot does, if we just, it loads the URL, it's going to log the URL, and then it's going to sleep for 5 seconds and move on to the next one. So let's save, let's run the bot. First of all, I'm going to run it without showing you the browser. So just seeing our log, see it's going to the first Instagram URL. It's going to wait 5 seconds. It's going to say, okay, we've done that fine. Then it's going to the second one. And then we're going to hit the third one. And then we should be done without any errors. There we go, nailed it. It's just that it's 3 successes, there's only 3 on the list, and it says failed because it's run out of information. There's only 3 items on the text file, so that's why, and it took 26 seconds to run. Okay, great. Now I'm going to run it again. This time, if you click up here, you can, where it says show browser, it shows the browser. So it's come to the first one. You are going to have to re-click the browser button because it's just running through the script and restarting, so the browser closes. So number 2, and then number 3. There we go, done and dusted. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to start really spreading our wings, and what we're going to come up here and we're going to click show database. Okay, do you remember from the first video we did actually make a database? So we have a database, but I'm going to edit the schema and I'm going to call the database, I'm going to rename it to IG info. Okay, and then again IG info in the description, and then for columns I'm going to have username still, because the first thing we're going to scrape is the username of the Instagram account, and then I'm going to have a second option, a second field, which is followers. Okay, and you always want to fill out the description section as well, otherwise when you're working with the database you won't actually see the field. So just make sure you filled out these 2 fields, hit OK, and now we have a database and it has 2 fields that we can work with, username and followers. So I'm just going to hit save and hit save, and then it will say you need to restart the program for the database to work. That's all good. Just going to close this. Now we have a database. We go project, show database, and database manager this time. Here's our database, and right now it's empty. Okay, but we have 2 fields that say username and followers. Right, so let's now go back to record so we can get onto our visual editor. Just seeing how I'm doing for time here. Okay, wow, 23 minutes already. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do as we did before. We're going to load a URL, and once the URL is loaded, what we're going to grab is the person's username. Okay, so we're going to come over to the element, which is, you'll see it comes with a red square, so hover your mouse over it, right or left click, whatever you prefer. Now we're going to use the option, if you scroll down, get element text, so click on that. Now we're in luck here because that's a great selector to use, H2. Remember I told you try and go with something that's not going to change, so I doubt very much they're going to change that from a H2 tag. Okay, now I'm going to introduce you quickly to variables. Again, in the course I go into great detail with this, but just so you can do this yourself and you understand, a variable is, see it as a placeholder. You can think of it as a bucket or a folder. It's just a named a name that we use that we can store data in. Okay, so it could be a number, it could be a string of text, it could be anything. It's just like a placeholder, and within that placeholder, some information is stored. And this is going to become clear in a second. So I'm going to call this this variable IG username. And if you remember, I said earlier, when you're working with resources or you're working with variables, make sure that you call the variable or the resource something memorable, something that you're going to understand what it is later. So I'm going to call this IG username and hit OK. So now we have loaded the page and we've grabbed, hopefully we've grabbed this, the person's username. Okay, so if we go to our bug icon here, just down here, if you remember from the first video, we can see all our resources and our variables and how they stand at the moment, which is a great way to make sure that each step that you do has been performed correctly. So if we look here, we have our URLs, we have 3. This is our resource. And if we look here under variables now, we only have one that we just made. It's called IG username. And in that variable or in that bucket or in that placeholder, whatever makes sense to you, we've now got the information called Travel World 810, which is the person's username. So we've scraped that data, okay? And then I'm going to scrape the person's followers in this case. So I'm going to click again, hover over, and then I'm going to use the get element text again, and let's have a look at the elements. Let's have a look. We certainly don't want to use that. Let's just check. Followers, no, it's not a capital F for starters. Followers. Okay, so what I've done here, I've come down to the match option, okay, and clicked that, and then I have got rid of this text. You always leave the first bit open here, forward arrow, match, forward arrow. Then I've typed in followers, and in this case, it's the only thing on the screen that matches that context. So look, you can see it's highlighted too, so you know that you've got the right thing. And here it says element selector. How many have been found? Just 1. That's great. And I'm going to call this variable followers. Okay, and so it's something that makes sense of what we're grabbing. And remember, this is a variable, so it's like a placeholder. So we're putting this information into that variable. Now, really, we could just grab the number, okay, but just for this example, I'm just grabbing the number with the followers at the end. So I'm going to hit OK. Let's check that with the bug icon. Wow, there you go. Now we have 2 variables, followers, spelt wrong, and IG username. Okay. Should I just grab the number here to make things simple? I'm going to call it follow count. Okay. No, we'll just keep the whole thing just for simplicity. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of here and hit save. And one thing that we need to create, in fact, to keep things simple, we can do it straight from the actual BAS profile. So the next thing that we want to do is click the option here, database. We want to work with our database. So this is in the toolkit, and we want to insert a record. Okay, so from your toolkit database, you'll be presented with lots of new items to do with the database. In this instance, we want to insert a record. Now, which database do we want to work with? Well, we've only got one, and it's called IG Info, so that. Now, what information do we want to put into this new record? So you'll see that all the fields of the database are here. Convenient, that's great. So we've got one field, if you remember, we made called username, and one called followers. So for the one that's called username, what do we want to insert in there? So we want to use one of our variables that we made, and the information that we want to use is the IG username. So under the column called username. In our database, we want to insert the scraped information called username, or IG username in this case. And then under followers, so we just click the insert variable. What variable do we want to insert? The follow count. And then hit OK. So what's happening here? What is this bot doing? This bot is first going to go to it's going to go to the first line of the file that we're using. So each Instagram account is on one line of the file. So it's going to go to the first Instagram account. It's going to grab the person's username. It's going to grab their follow count, and then it's going to insert that information into the database. Okay, so let's just run through that step just one time. So just so as well, just to go over things, if you want to go anywhere, say we were down here in the insert record, you can just click on any block of the bot, right click your mouse button, and then move execution point here. Boom, and you'll see the little arrow there. Okay, another tip actually I want to give you is if you click on, and you should do this, please, when I first started making bots, I didn't do this and thought I was the bot god and thought I didn't need this. But here you can see it says task description. You can put the information, a little comment that will remind you what that section of the bot does. So and you can also color code the section, which is handy when you get more advanced. But for now, I'm going to put select URL to go to, and then hit OK. And you'll see the comment is underneath the item here. This is good to remind you what the bot does. It's great if you're going to work with somebody and you pass the script on as well, so they know what the hell you're doing, because everyone makes bots differently. There's always more than one way to skin a cat. That's covered in the course, what that really means. But in a nutshell, it means that always in programming, be it with BAS or different software creation, a different tool, or if you're programming in Java, JavaScript, Python, whatever, there's always more than one way to do things. So the way that you might approach a problem is different to maybe how someone else will handle it. It doesn't mean that their way is necessarily wrong. There is more efficient ways to do things than others, but there's always more than one way to make things work. For instance, we're scraping data by using a selection of elements. There is regular expressions, XPath. There's more than one way to scrape data. Okay, we can scrape data without the browser. So this might not be the most efficient way, but it's a method that works. Okay, so with that being said, let's carry on. So we're going to go to one of the IG profiles. We're going to grab the username. We're going to grab the follow account. I'm going to put that information into our database. Now, if I've done it right, when we go to projects and then we go to show database and we go to database manager, bam, there you go. What do we have? We have the person's username and then we have their followers. Okay. Now, what we could do with this vast amount of information that we've scraped is come up to here, convert, and we can export this as a CSV, or we could export as an XLS, and we can work with this within Excel. Okay, so this information can be downloaded. We can also come here to the blue icon. We can we can add items to the database by hand. We can copy items, and you can also filter information. So this is really good. You can make new groups. So we could filter by the amount of followers there are. So if you're building a bot and you only wanted to display accounts that have under 100,000 followers, you could do that. That's for another video where we can put items into groups and just work with them. So the database can get quite advanced of what you can do with it. But if you've been following along, you've done something really good here. You've working with databases, you're scraping information, so you can build really powerful bots. You know, this is only the second video and you've already, if you've been following along, managed to do that. So let's do this. Let's get rid of this. Okay. And then I'm just going to go to record because I want to just add a few more details into here. Like I want to, once we've loaded the URL, I want to come to our tools in toolbox, log, sorry, I want to log that URL like we did earlier. So I want to log out the URL, hit OK, hit OK, and then I want to do the same here. So we display in our logs the username. So here, I'm going to log, what do I want to log out? Insert variable. What variable do I want to display? The username that we just scraped. Hit OK, hit OK. And again, just under here, I want to, once it's scraped the follow count, I want that to log out. So again, here, log, what do I want to log out? The variable called follow count. And also, once it's done that, before it moves on to the next item in the list, the next IG profile, I'm going to make it just cool down and wait. So I'm going to add a waiter, sleep, and I'm going to get really fancy here. I'm going to put the click the sleep random time option. I'm going to say wait between 3 seconds. So it's in milliseconds, so between 3,000 and 5,000, between 3 seconds and 5 seconds. I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to wait that time. Okay, so let's see what we've produced. Some kind of monster. Let's see. So let's hit run. We've got our resource loaded with our list of Instagram URLs. Let's hit OK and let's see the browser. So if I move it over there, the browser loads and here's the information we've scraped. Okay, success. It's going to go on to the next one. Don't know if you can see that. It's going to scrape that. It's going to wait a couple seconds and it's done. There you go. So now if we go to projects, show database, database manager, look at that. We have 3 usernames and we have their follow account in the database. So you've learned how to select elements, you've learned how to make a database, how to scrape information into that database. You are on your way to being bot masters. You can show your mum, your sister, your brother, your newfound skills, and you are going to be praised as a bot god in your household. Okay guys, I've gone on long enough for this video and I need another coffee. So I hope that's been helpful and I will see you in the next video.